In July of 2025, the American Public Health Registry published a report that should have made national headlines. Over 70% of supermarket hot dogs contained at least one additive banned across the European Union. Chemicals linked to cancer, hormone disruption, and metabolic failure still lining shelves in the US, unlabeled and unchallenged. Interestingly, months before that report dropped, Donald Trump, during several lesser-known interviews, hinted at a troubling pattern. He questioned why so many American food staples contained substances illegal abroad, and specifically singled out 6 brands of supermarket hot dogs. At the time, few paid attention. Today, those remarks land differently, because this isn't just about processed meat. It's about what's been allowed to quietly fester in our food system. Why are vulnerable Americans, retirees, veterans, low-income families still eating hot dogs preserved with ingredients banned in Europe? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And today, we uncover the 6 supermarket hot dogs you've probably eaten, trusted, and shared without knowing what they're doing to your health. Number 1. Bar S Classic Frank's. You'd think something this plain, this familiar, would be harmless. A red and white package, a $1 price tag, a promise of dinner. No glitz, no gimmicks, just hot dogs that have fed generations through good times and hard ones. They're tossed in the shopping cart like old friends, reliable, cheap, and always there when the fridge is bare and the bills are tall. It's the food equivalent of, it's not much, but it's honest work. But what if that quiet bargain has been quietly betraying the very people who needed it most? Because according to a wave of damning reports in 2025, Bar S Classic Franks are more than just a cheap bite. They're a chemical Trojan horse, stuffed with additives and toxins that hit hardest when your body is already vulnerable. In March, the Environmental Working Group flagged Bar S for sky-high levels of sodium nitrite and TBHQ. If those sound like something scraped off a lab floor, that's not far from the truth. Sodium nitrite, especially when grilled, turns into nitrosamines, cancer-linked compounds placed in the same danger group as asbestos and cigarette smoke. And TBHQ? It's banned in the European Union and Japan for a reason. It's been linked to hormone disruption, immune system breakdowns, and even behavioral issues in kids. But it doesn't stop at ingredients. In April, USDA inspectors found a jaw-dropping trail of violations inside a Bar S facility in Oklahoma. Dirty equipment caked with old meat, packaging areas with pooled fluid, and, this one's a kicker, lot numbers being swapped after failing bacterial tests. According to a whistleblower leak published May 24th by the Texas Tribune, Bar S didn't pull contaminated Franks off the shelves. They just relabeled them and shipped them straight to budget stores, places like Dollar Tree, where families on fixed incomes unknowingly took home the ticking time bomb. And yes, the bomb went off. In June, a lawsuit was filed in Tulsa after an elderly woman on dialysis fell violently ill with salmonella traced back to Bar S Franks. No one aired it on primetime, no headlines. But to her family, it was everything. She wasn't looking for filet mignon, just something warm, familiar, and easy to chew. What she got instead was pain, the kind that doesn't go away with a refund. It's a brutal irony. The same brand that fed us through hardship might now be feeding the hardship itself. And yet, can we blame Bar S alone? They didn't invent the game. They just played it well. In a food system that rewards speed, scale, and secrecy, is it any wonder companies cut corners when cornered by cost? Maybe Bar S is just the messenger, and the message is this: the rules aren't protecting you. They're protecting someone else. But here's the part we can control. What goes in our cart? If you still want hot dogs, brands like Applegate Organics and Teton Waters Ranch are offering nitrate-free, clean label options. Sprouts and Fresh Thyme run sales on them often. Even Target's store brand has better standards. Or search homemade hot dogs on YouTube. You'll find grandmas teaching recipes with 0 preservatives and 1 ingredient you can't fake: care. So the question isn't just whether we can afford better food, it's whether we can afford the consequences of settling for worse. When did cheap become more important than safe? And what are we really feeding the body, or the illusion that everything's fine? Maybe what hurts the most is realizing that something you trusted wasn't really food at all. It was just another business deal. Number 2. Oscar Mayer Classic Beef Franks. You remember the jingle, don't you? That cheerful little tune that once echoed through TV sets, picnic tables, and school cafeterias across America. Oscar Mayer wasn't just a hot dog brand, it was Americana. It stood for summer cookouts, 4th of July fireworks, and plastic lunchboxes packed with love. The Wienermobile wasn't just a gimmick, it was a parade float for childhood memories. But now, those memories carry a bitter aftertaste, because behind the nostalgia lies a truth that no one sang about. In February of 2025, the Environmental Working Group released a grim update to its hot dog safety index. Over 50 brands were tested, and Oscar Mayer's classic beef franks landed in the bottom 10%. Why? Because they're still relying on a trio of troubling preservatives: sodium nitrite, potassium lactate, and sodium diacetate. Sodium nitrite, once considered a harmless stabilizer, now stands accused in a long line of medical reports. When exposed to high heat, like on your grill or stovetop, it transforms into nitrosamines. These compounds aren't speculation. They're confirmed human carcinogens grouped by the World Health Organization right alongside asbestos and tobacco smoke. Studies have tied them directly to colorectal and stomach cancers, with older adults, especially those over 60, being most at risk. But it was the May 2025 report from the Clean Label Project that truly shook the table. Their investigation sampled Oscar Mayer franks from Walmart and Target shelves and uncovered traces of propylparaben. That's not a typo. It's the same chemical often found in shampoo and face cream, now appearing in food. While still technically legal in the US, propylparaben has been banned in European food products since 2006. Its ability to disrupt hormones, especially in children and women, is so well documented that even the FDA quietly flagged it as a substance of toxicological concern in a draft guidance issued earlier this year. And if you think it ends with chemicals, let's look at where that beef actually comes from. In April, Mercy for Animals released disturbing drone footage and worker testimonies from a major Oscar Mayer beef supplier in Nebraska. Cattle jammed together in barren feedlots, fed GMO corn doused in chemical antifungals, limping animals prodded with electric sticks. No shade, no dignity, and no commitment from Oscar Mayer or Kraft Heinz to cut ties with the supplier. Just a bland corporate statement about audits. So here we are. A brand that once stood for comfort and celebration now seems to stand for silence and shortcuts. When no one is looking, they cut costs in ways that most families would never tolerate if they saw it with their own eyes. And maybe that's the real betrayal, not the preservatives or the parabens, but the way a household name can morph into something almost unrecognizable while hiding in plain sight. But let's not forget, Oscar Mayer isn't just some neighborhood butcher anymore. It's part of the Kraft Heinz machine, a global giant answering to Wall Street more than Main Street. And when profits are the only religion, ethics become optional. In a world where groceries are more expensive than gas, these companies bet on the idea that you'll settle for less if the price is right. Still, we do have choices. True Story Foods, Organic Valley, brands that offer grass-fed, preservative-free options raised without cruelty or cover-ups. And local butchers across the country, from Pittsburgh to Des Moines to Tucson, are bringing back real franks made the old way, with meat, spice, and thyme. You won't find parabens there, just pride. So the question isn't whether you once trusted Oscar Mayer. The real question is, would you trust it now with your grandchild's lunch? And if this is what they're hiding in America's most beloved hot dog, what do you think is lurking in everything else? Number 3. Gwaltney chicken and pork hot dogs. They don't make much noise, but they make it. Into your freezer. Gwaltney isn't the kind of brand that jumps out at you, it just shows up. In the dollar store aisle, the buy one get one bins, the 10-pack deals that seem to whisper, "We've got your back." With a slogan like "a Southern tradition since 1870, they don't need flash, they bank on familiarity. It's the kind of brand that leans on faded memories of childhood cookouts, Sunday potlucks, and packed school lunches. But sometimes the softest voices are the ones hiding the biggest secrets. And in Gwaltney's case, those secrets are stacked like dominoes inside every bite. In June of 2025, the Center for Food Integrity gave Gwaltney one of the lowest scores in its annual transparency report, bottom 15%. Why? Because they refused to fully disclose their additive levels, sourcing practices, or safety audits. The numbers weren't just missing, they were buried. And maybe that's because what's inside would stop anyone mid-bite. The ingredient list reads like a greatest hits album of international food bans. First, there's sodium nitrite, the same additive banned from baby food in Europe and flagged by EFSA for forming nitrosamines when heated. These compounds are DNA-wrecking carcinogens linked to cancers of the colon, rectum, and pancreas. Then there's carrageenan, a seaweed-derived thickener that might sound natural, but wreaks havoc on the gut. It's been banned in infant formula throughout the European Union and blasted by the Cornucopia Institute for causing inflammation, ulcers, and intestinal distress. For older adults or folks with diabetes, it's more than just bloating. It's a potential accelerant for insulin resistance and chronic illness. And here's the real gut punch: sodium aluminum phosphate, an aluminum-based additive linked to neurotoxicity and cognitive decline. While France and Germany have already banned it in processed food, we're still feeding it to seniors here, folks already facing record high rates of dementia. What kind of country lets that slide? If you think the factory is any better than the formula, think again. In April 2025, a whistleblower video released by Animal Outlook revealed what goes on behind the scenes at a Gwaltney pork plant in North Carolina. Picture pigs stacked in filthy pens, wounded animals left untreated, and workers pushed to brutal 16-hour shifts without bathroom breaks. USDA inspection records confirmed violations just months earlier for unhygienic conveyor belts and failures in humane slaughter protocols. It's not just what's in the meat, it's how that meat got there. So let's not kid ourselves. That $1.99 hot dog, it doesn't just come with ketchup and mustard, it comes with a side of aluminum, gut-wrecking thickeners, and chemicals linked to cancer, all wrapped up in a brand that sells tradition while treating transparency like a four-letter word. It's easy to pretend it's just a hot dog, until the doctor says the word you never expected: tumor, dementia, inflammation. And yet, who's really to blame? Gwaltney is part of Smithfield Foods, a mega conglomerate owned by WH Group in China. Their job isn't to care, it's to cut costs. In a broken system where profits scream louder than public health, they're just doing what's allowed, what's encouraged even. And when working class families are forced to choose between a safe product and a cheap one, it's not just an economic decision, it's a trap. Still, the door is not completely shut. Brands like Welcher Farms, available at Whole Foods and Publix, offer nitrate-free, aluminum-free Franks without carrageenan. Fork in the Road makes pasture-raised hot dogs you can trace back to the farm. And yes, you can even make them at home. Retired veterans on YouTube are sharing recipes using nothing but pork, vinegar, garlic, paprika, and a little patience. It's not hard, it's just honest. But the bigger question is this: what kind of America feeds its elders chemicals that Europe won't even feed its infants? How many more kids will think these hot dogs are just what dinner's supposed to be? And if this is what's hiding in the cheap stuff, what else have we blindly accepted just because it came wrapped in nostalgia? Number 4. Ballpark Beef Franks. It's the hot dog with a name that practically sings America. Ballpark. You hear it, and suddenly you're transported to a little league game, bleachers creaking underfoot, grill smoke curling in the summer heat. It's family, it's freedom, it's 4th of July fireworks. That yellow and blue package doesn't just promise food, it promises a memory. But what happens when the symbol of our simplest joys turns out to be a slow burn health threat hiding in plain sight? In April 2025, a joint investigation by the Clean Label Project and Consumer Wellness Watch shook the grocery world when Ballpark Beef Franks tested positive for not 1, not 2, but 3 notorious additives: monosodium glutamate, MSG, sodium nitrite, and propylparaben. All 3 have been restricted or outright banned in various countries for reasons that go far beyond bureaucratic red tape. They're linked to neurological damage, hormone disruption, and elevated cancer risk. And yet here they are, packed neatly into something we hand our grandkids at backyard barbecues. Let's start with MSG. It's long been sold as a flavor enhancer, but that's a slick way of saying it manipulates your brain into thinking food tastes better than it should. The EU bans it from infant food for a reason. MSG has been associated with headaches, chest tightness, and in some cases, heart palpitations. More insidiously, it hijacks the body's natural appetite signals, making people crave more processed food and ignore when they're full. For anyone dealing with high blood pressure, diabetes, or weight issues, this isn't seasoning, it's sabotage. Then there's sodium nitrite, still used by Ballpark to keep their Franks pink and their shelf life long. But what that pink hides is deadly. When exposed to heat, nitrites form nitrosamines, powerful cancer-causing compounds. The European Food Safety Authority reaffirmed in 2025 that there's no safe daily intake for nitrite-treated meats. And yet Ballpark keeps using it. Why? Because nobody buys gray hot dogs. But the real shocker is Propylparaben. This isn't just a bad idea, it's a banned one. Outlawed from food use in the EU since 2006, it's linked to reproductive issues, hormone interference, and breast cancer risk. Ballpark franks contain measurable amounts, 0.13 parts per million. That may sound small, but parabens accumulate in fatty tissue, especially in growing kids and aging adults. It's not the one-time exposure that hurts, it's the years of quiet buildup. And the problem isn't just in the ingredients, it's in the way the meat is made. In March 2025, OSHA launched an investigation into Tyson Foods, Ballpark's parent company, for failing to report worker injuries and maintaining unsanitary conditions at multiple facilities. Internal video showed exhausted workers on high-speed lines, equipment cleaned too quickly, contamination risks ignored. That dog on your plate? It may have been sliced by hands too overworked to notice a sanitation slip. So now we have to ask, when did something as innocent as a Ballpark frank become part of a system that chews up both bodies and trust? When did we decide that a tradition worth holding on to had to come with a chemical warning label? But there are brighter options. Neiman Ranch, the Simple Grocer, and Applegate Natural Beef hot dogs offer hormone-free, nitrate-free, MSG-free options made from grass-fed beef. And Aldi's Never Any line gives families affordable choices without parabens or preservatives. Those who've made the switch often report fewer stomach issues, better sleep, and clearer skin, symptoms they never thought to connect with the hot dogs in their fridge. The deeper question is this: why have we let our icons become delivery systems for disease? And how much longer will we celebrate the illusion of all American while paying for it with the health of our families? Number 5. Great Value Beef Franks. They're cheap, they're everywhere, and they say it right in the name. Great value. For countless households juggling rising rent, gas prices, and medical bills, Walmart's hot dogs have become more than just a convenient meal. They're a backup plan, a weeknight fallback, a thank goodness we've got something in the fridge kind of product. The price is right. The packaging looks harmless. But what if that value comes at a cost far higher than the one on the receipt? In May of 2025, the Clean Label Project released a sweeping third-party investigation analyzing dozens of supermarket hot dogs. Great Value Beef Franks didn't just raise red flags, they were placed firmly in the high concern tier. Why? Because lab tests revealed a chemical trifecta inside each frank: sodium nitrite, propylene glycol, and carrageenan. A recipe for shelf life and texture, yes, but also one laced with cancer links, organ toxicity, and metabolic destruction. All perfectly legal in the United States, all banned or heavily restricted throughout the European Union, and all quietly landing on dinner plates across America. Let's start with propylene glycol, the same stuff found in antifreeze and airplane de-icers. No, that's not hyperbole. This chemical is used to keep meat moist and bouncy, even after weeks on the shelf. While the FDA still allows it in small amounts, the European Food Safety Authority has banned it in all food due to long-term studies linking it to liver and kidney damage. And here's the kicker. You won't find it in big, bold letters on the front of the package. It's tucked away in the fine print, next to ingredients you probably stop reading halfway through. Then there's carrageenan. Sounds natural, it's from seaweed, but once it hits your digestive system, it behaves like sandpaper on your intestines. Inflammation, ulcers, and increased insulin resistance have all been documented, particularly among people already dealing with digestive issues or diabetes. That's a disturbing irony when you consider that Walmart's customer base includes many of the Americans most vulnerable to these exact conditions: older adults, low-income families, veterans, and folks living far from quality medical care. And then there's sodium nitrite, the industry's favorite pink dye disguised as a preservative. When heated, it becomes nitrosamines, a class of compounds placed in the same carcinogen group as asbestos and tobacco smoke by the World Health Organization. Colorectal cancer doesn't come overnight. It comes from the quiet, repetitive exposure that builds up over time, like weekly family dinners with Great Value dogs on the grill. But where do these hot dogs actually come from? Walmart doesn't make them. They outsource to unnamed subcontractors hidden in rural processing plants scattered across the South and Midwest. In one damning 2025 exposé by Food Integrity Wire, investigators traced a shipment of Great Value franks back to a Mississippi facility cited twice that year by the USDA for violating basic sanitation protocols. No recall, no public warning. Just business as usual, with the same hot dogs back on the shelf the next day. And this is the part that cuts the deepest. The very communities turning to great value to feed their kids and stretch their budgets are also the ones most devastated by the consequences. Dialysis clinics filled with diabetics, oncology units crowded with patients from small towns, Vietnam veterans living on disability, relying on franks and ramen to make it. Through the week, it's not just a food issue, it's a moral one. So what can you do? Trader Joe's uncured beef, hot dogs, no nitrites, no carrageenan, no propylene glycol, sell for around $4. Aldi's Simply Nature organic hot dogs often drop below $3.50. And at your local co-op or butcher, you might find franks made with just salt, pepper, and a little real smoke. No dyes, no sludge, no industrial trickery. The question isn't whether great value hot dogs are affordable. The question is, what are they costing us in the long run? And when did it become acceptable for a price tag to be printed in ink, while the real cost is written in prescriptions and medical charts 10 years down the road? Number 6. Nathan's famous beef franks. There's something about the name Nathan's that makes you pause. It feels iconic, like a Brooklyn boardwalk in the summer, like mustard on a paper plate, like something too American to question. Famous since 1916, they boast, as if age alone makes a thing wholesome. But in July of 2025, that nostalgia took a punch to the gut. A comprehensive report by the Center for Investigative Food Safety revealed that Nathan's famous beef franks weren't just hiding secrets, they were marinating in them. Lab tests from batches bought in New York, Texas, and Florida showed high levels of sodium nitrite, a generous helping of carrageenan, and trace amounts of MSG, each one a known health red flag. While all of these are still allowed under U.S. food laws, they've been banned or strictly limited in most developed nations. In other words, what's on your American grill might be illegal in half of Europe. Let's start with sodium nitrite, the additive responsible for that signature pink color and long shelf life. But once it's cooked, it morphs into nitrosamines, chemicals that the World Health Organization places in the same cancer-causing category as asbestos. Countries like Germany, Norway, and the UK have cracked down on it. Nathan's? They still lean on it proudly, slapping premium quality on a label that masks a carcinogenic shortcut. Then there's carrageenan. It sounds gentle, seaweed-derived, vaguely healthful, but inside the body, it's a wrecking ball. Linked to inflammation, gut ulcers, and insulin resistance, carrageenan has been banned in baby formula across the European Union. For folks battling diabetes, IBS, or autoimmune conditions, this additive doesn't just irritate, it inflames meal by meal, bite by bite. And hiding in the shadows is MSG. It doesn't always show up clearly. Sometimes it's disguised as yeast extract or natural flavors. But its effects are no less insidious. It overstimulates your nervous system, pushing cravings into overdrive and triggering headaches, anxiety, and disordered eating. In adults, it's manipulative. In kids, it's dangerous. A 2025 study in the American Nutrition Journals drew fresh links between MSG and developmental neurotoxicity in children under 12. And Nathan's? They know this, but keep sprinkling it in. But the worst part may not be in the recipe, it's in the reality behind the scenes. In April of 2025, activists from Voices Behind the Meat released hidden footage from a Smithfield-owned facility supplying Nathan's beef. The images were enough to make anyone's stomach turn. Cattle with pus-filled infections being rinsed off, not treated. Workers rushing through sanitation steps to hit production quotas. The USDA later confirmed substandard hygienic practices during 3 separate inspections, but Smithfield offered the usual PR spin and kept the lines moving. So what exactly are we chewing on when we eat a Nathan's hot dog? It's not just meat, it's industrial denial. A century-old tradition shrink-wrapped in modern indifference. A company banking on your nostalgia so you don't read the label. Because if you did, you might realize that what's famous doesn't always mean safe. Sometimes it just means persistent, but you don't have to keep playing the same song on a broken radio. Kroger's Simple Truth organic hot dogs, Applegate uncured beef franks, and Beeler's clean pork dogs all offer cleaner choices, free of nitrates, hormones, carrageenan, and cruelty. And the growing wave of homemade franks is picking up steam, led by grandparents and veterans who'd rather grind their own meat than feed their families corporate shortcuts. So ask yourself, is tradition supposed to protect us or pacify us? And if a food legacy lasts 100 years while quietly damaging our health, what kind of legacy is that, really? Because the next generation is watching, and what we choose to feed them now will shape what they believe is worth trusting later. If these hot dogs, sold in nearly every grocery store across America, can contain chemicals banned overseas, sourced from neglected animals, and processed in plants flagged for safety violations, we have to ask, what else have we normalized without knowing it? This isn't just about Franks. It's about the stories we're sold, the labels we don't read, and the quiet cost of convenience. The food on our table should nourish, not gamble with our future. And if tradition refuses to evolve, maybe it's time we outgrow it. Share this with someone you care about. And if you believe Americans deserve truth on their plates, not just marketing, subscribe to our channel. Because this isn't about outrage, it's about awareness. And the more of us who know, the fewer who suffer in silence.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our daily content. Now feel free to check out some of the newest and best videos currently shown on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.